All right, here we are at Right Angle Backstage, this week's planning session for the upcoming episodes that we will be shooting tomorrow. And Bill, with your permission, or actually without it, because you don't know what I'm about to say, con permiso, we had a customer complaining to the complaint window, which is the comment section apparently, that we didn't
I'll be right back.
Yeah. That we didn't do a show last week about the whole James Comey firing. And if I understand the timeline correctly, that firing, or at least word of it, got out like shortly after we recorded the shows on Tuesday. And so we didn't get a chance to handle that. And the person kind of intimated, and by intimated, I mean outright told us that we just need to change our schedule so that we can adopt to the breaking nature of news. Now, I'll let you take a crack at this, but I wanted to say two things. I wish I had the liberty to change my schedule. However, the 2 days a week that I do not work at selling computers in a store are Monday and Tuesday. And so that was our previous shooting schedule anyway, and it works nicely for us. But it's just not possible for me to suddenly take time out of my work schedule. Like you viewer, you probably have a job that you have to be at. The other thing is, I find that it's better with breaking news stories of this nature to get a little time under your belt, because inevitably first reports are inaccurate or muddled, and I actually prefer the idea on something so crucial to wait a little while and figure out what's, after all the spin kind of spins out, what actually happened.
Wow.
That is precisely my response. We knew that the Comey thing was about to break, and the second we heard that he was about to be fired, I set the timer so that exactly 7 days later, 7 days later to the minute, we would be able to record a show that had a full week of a chance to mature and get the details correct. And
it's
and
a vintage story now. It's perfectly seasoned in
boy, do we
final
do
kegs.
the internet wrong.
Hey, look, there's obviously, I don't mean any insult at all by this, obviously, but I'm sure there is a world where we could be doing this show every day instead of us each bringing one show, each one of us bringing, one show, a taping session, and plus members only doing 4 in one day. I'm sure there's a world where we could do this 3 times a week or something. That's just a resource-based issue at this point. So, we're going to start another campaign to try and keep this thing going, and that's about the best we can do. We don't really have the ability to call in a special show. We would do a special show on something absolutely major. We did one on? Was it?
Oh.
Yeah, we broke in
Trump's
and did a
we did
Facebook
election,
live
right? We did an
broadcast
election
or something.
one.
Yeah.
We showed up on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, something absolutely major like that. But right now, unfortunately, we're just stuck with the resources we have, which means we can dedicate one afternoon on Monday to do the Backstage show, and then Tuesday for about an hour to do all the other 4.
Yeah, the next version of the show.
I'd like to just close by saying it was extremely, of all the things that Jim Comey has done that have upset, pretty much the entire nation, resigning just as we were shooting or just after we shot the right angles, I think is the ultimate indictment of the man.
Resigning.
You think, yes, being fired. They could have held that. They could have held that until, until we'd had a chance to, or they could have moved it up, is what I'm trying to say. In any event, look at that. There's an entire 4 minutes gone.
Dear Director Comey, this letter acknowledges your coming resignation.
Right, exactly. Or he could have leaked it to us first. Trump could have leaked the firing to us first.
Well, and I look forward to the day when the new version of this show will be called Men of Leisure Speaking Daily on Topics of Importance.
That'd actually be a hell of a great title.
That would be a great title.
That would actually be a great title.
It's like, you had me at Men of Leisure.
Yeah.
So we can't all be the founders and framers of this country. Some of us have to work for a living. Anyway, we are now planning this week's episodes, and my understanding is that Stephen Green has the members episode this week, and I knew that. I would say that I knew that because we have that all calendared out for the entire year, which we do. But primarily, I knew that by the sound of anxiety and panic in Steve's voice when we first linked up on this teleconference.
Well,
so
you
Stephen,
can also tell by the content of the actual words, which were, "I don't have any topics, help me, please."
Why don't you do James Comey firing?
I'm going to do... No, that's
happened?
last week's news, Bill. I'm going to do the fallout to the James Comey firing.
There you go, beautiful buddy.
Yeah. And because the left is going ape stuff, as we all know. None other than Lawrence Tribe, who's a big deal, is saying that because of this completely legal action, Trump must be impeached. We had the Stephen Colbert thing where he'd spent, as Jim Treacher noted, he just spent the last 6 months training his audience to cheer against Comey, and as soon as Comey gets fired, the audience cheers. And then he had to explain to them that no, that's yesterday's Pravda. Today's Pravda is we had to keep him.
Yeah.
So we've got so much of this to go through.
Real liberal friend on Facebook, who I still watch football games with. I'm scrolling through his feed. He's about the only real progressive I have on my personal Facebook feed. And he was saying, okay, now let's not get too excited about impeachment. The wheels of justice grind slowly. It may take a year or two for these proceedings to really, wash out. And I thought, which proceedings are we talking about? The ones where there's no connection to the Russians on the election, or the one where the president gets to appoint the national security advisor, the director of the CIA, the director of the NSA, the director of the FBI, the chief justice, the attorney general, and so on. What part of this is the impeachable offense?
Well, and as usual, there's the story, and then there's what the media made of the story, or sort of the media politico complex. It's a combination of the politicians. And now today's story, at least the most late-breaking stuff I saw, is how many Republicans are beginning to backtrack from their support of Donald Trump, but they still mention only a small number of those people. I think that there really aren't that many foolish Republicans who, if they're going to start backtracking on their support of Donald Trump, it'll be after they get reelected.
Well,
yeah, that's right.
I don't think it's big news that John McCain and Lindsey Graham are backing away slowly. No, it's exactly what we expect out of those guys.
If they're so far away from him already that if they back away, they're going to bump into him.
All right.
Okay, so the Comey fallout.
Yeah, Comey fallout with. I think the accent on that segment is going to be just how bat stuff crazy the left is. We have always been at war with East Asia.
Yep.
I
thought it was your
That might
Asia.
be my entire summation for tomorrow.
Yeah, do it, absolutely.
Well, I hate to give away the punchline, but you pay perfectly good money, dear members, to have me do that, and God bless you for it. And yeah, we've got a cultural story that's been making the rounds. There was a big New York Post write-up over the weekend. Childish men are to blame for women having kids late in life. And it's basically just Manhattan women complaining about men. It's so Sex in the City, 1997. I can't believe in 20 years we haven't evolved past this.
Yeah, we've got to emasculate these domineering Don Draper type alpha males and reduce them to a nonviolent, loving, sensitive formula, and then we have to make sure that these wimp males have to toughen up and get back to some kind of Don Draper standard of manliness and toughness. I see how it works.
Yeah. It sounds like that from your headline, Stephen, and I did not read that story yet, but from your headline, it sounds like they're not encouraging this trend. They're remarking on the trend that they've already created.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, they're complaining that the men they wanted for suck.
Yeah, I think my response to this would be, hey, if you're a fish, you don't get to complain about a lack of a bicycle, right? That's the way I look at it. And there you go.
Again, nice. I think we're going to have some fun with this one. And what I don't know is which one is members and which one is public. I guess Comey is public, yeah?
Yeah, it almost has to be, I would guess.
Yeah.
No?
I think it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Bill, do you have is your episode another sort of tie-in with the Comey affair, or do you have something now for something completely different? A man with a tape recorder up his nose.
Something completely different.
A man with 3 buttocks.
We've been doing a lot of obviously serious stuff, and I've been talking about millennials and the internet and social media and all the rest of it and how bad it is. I want to do more of that. I actually stumbled on something about 2-3 days ago, and I'm just completely obsessed. I can't let it go. There is a product out called the SimPit. That's a generic name for what these things are called, but basically it's essentially a structure that holds a curved screen, 2 projectors mount. It's either 180 degrees, 270 degrees, or 3 projectors mount, and the flight sims and the space sims are now absolutely immersive, and they've got chairs that'll rock and turn with the motion, and you're basically getting that particular, just the structure and the screen is it's about $3,000, $2,000. It's not cheap by any means, but it's not $200,000.
But I was about to say $2,000 or $3,000 is well within the realm of serious PC gaming hardware.
Well, and what
these
a
guys
difference
with dual liquid cooled GPUs and yeah.
What
Right,
a difference a consonant makes, because the whole time I thought you were talking about something called Sin Pit with an N.
Or as I like to call it, my single life in the 90s.
Turns out you don't need a computer for that.
No.
But using that as just kind of a, all right, just using that as kind of a launching point, I would like to get into just the quality of two sims that are out there, and they're all multiplayer sims. One of them is called DCS, Digital Combat Simulation. This is the most realistic looking thing I've ever seen. You get to fly, and every single switch works. And then the other one is Star Citizen, which is this interactive world where you get to kind of walk through it. And if either one of those had existed when I was 14 years old, I would have never left my house again, ever.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool, and we can talk a little bit about living in an alternate reality. You know, I mean, they tried it with Second Life almost 10 years ago now, I guess, where you could have an alternate person and interact with other real people through your alternate avatars. But these things are getting really smooth and really cool, and I just thought I'd bring our audience up.
Bill, are we going to have to use a different codec to make this show work with that hardware so that people could watch this show as if they were sitting with the three of us, around them in a round table kind of setting?
No,
That's an actually fun idea, to be honest with you.
Ideally, the way to do this show in VR would be to make it look like the trial scene of General Zod at the beginning of Superman the movie. Guilty.
I might be able to talk our editor into putting that episode onto the curved background site that I use for the We the People videos.
That'd be cool.
So it might be kind of fun, yeah. Yeah, so it blew my mind, actually, is what it did. I just saw it, I was like, what? Oh, my God.
That's awesome, and the possibilities are endless there.
Yep, absolutely.
I had a guy in the store yesterday who said he was he needed to get a computer because he was doing video conferencing. And I said, finally, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a doctor. And I said, what kind of doctor? He said, a psychologist. And apparently the firm he works for has decided that at least some of his patients don't need to be there for him to, to have conversations with them and to, diagnose and prescribe and whatever else psychologists are allowed to do.
Psychiatrists can prescribe. Psychologists can't. They're not medical.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be wrong about that, and I knew that you would know the right answer.
But we feel like we've been talking it once or twice a week every day for 8 years, and as we've said many times, we've only met in the flesh, all three of us together, twice, I think.
No.
Yeah.
Right? We've individually met separately.
Maybe a little more than that, but I don't think it's a full handful.
And I appreciate you both saving me $90 an hour to work through my problems. So that's really nice. Okay, so that is Bill Whittle's virtual simulated topic. Mine is a fascinating story which caught my attention because the New York Times headline, I will give you it verbatim, said, where anti-tax fervor means, quote, all services will cease. And I thought,
I love it!
Wow. Finally, the Tea Party movement has come to fruitation, as an old friend misstated once. So I thought, well, what is the terrible catastrophe that's happening? All services will cease. And if you read the entirety of the story, which I've now done 2 times, you may search in vain for the disaster. As close as I can come is to the fact that the tragedy is that a bond issue for $6 million to build a public library did not succeed at the ballot.
A library.
Good Lord.
A library.
And
that's a 19th century institution. I love libraries, but I can't tell you the last time I went to one because there's so much available that I don't even have to leave my desk to see.
I genuinely, honestly, for the life of me, cannot imagine why I would go to a library under any circumstances.
Yes, like, okay, Google, take me to the nearest library.
That's right. and Siri says, Are you out of your mind?
What
do you want to know? Just tell me.
You're just
what do you
wasting
want?
gas.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so that was the only other sort of negative impact that I could see was the claim that in one county in Oregon, there was a home that apparently was in arrears to the tune of $8,500 on their tax bill, but the county couldn't afford to ask for the money. And I was like, "Oh, come!"
I'd like to run into that kind of government.
Come now. There's
agency,
no.
because that's not been my experience.
There's no
My
secretary
experience
down
is
at.
that they ask quite enthusiastically.
Oh yes, that's right. There's no secretary down at the courthouse who can pick up the phone and go, "Listen, Bob, this isn't my normal job, but apparently you owe $8,500. When can we expect to see that?" So, on the one hand, I was, sort of pleasantly surprised that the New York Times with this catastrophizing headline was unable to produce virtually any evidence that people would consider would be a bad effect. And the other, it gives us a chance, I think, to revisit what I believe is going to be the heart of the political reformation of this country, and that is at the local level. As much as we talk about national news, because actually it's easier because it's aggregated and everybody knows the characters that we're talking about, really, if you are going to change your country, it is your involvement at the township and county and school district level that's going to have the greatest impact. And here, apparently, out in Oregon, there are a few counties where they've basically said, no, you can't jack up our taxes anymore. And interestingly, they used to get a great deal of revenue from forestry, from timbering operations, but that has fallen off in recent years, probably because our fine friends, the Canadians, are producing most of the timber now. But
and the planet's dying too. Don't forget.
Yeah,
the
well, that's
planet's
true
dying.
too.
There
And
are
of
hardly
course,
any trees left to chop down.
nobody's
We
buying
only
any
got
houses
we
and-
only have the sequoias now, apparently.
4 billion years. Earth has had a good run.
But anyway, it's I think another good opportunity to revisit this and sort of speculate and say, what would happen if we started saying no on the local level to things that don't necessarily benefit everybody, so not everybody should have to pay for them. And the other side of that, of course, which we've talked about before, is how can we push more of federal responsibilities down to the local level so that local people can say no?
I think it's wonderful.
Yep.
I love it.
So there you have it, my friends. We have a full week of Right Angle episodes lined up for you, ready to roll. And Stephen Green had to throw away the other 7 good ideas he had.
I had 0.7 good ideas before Bill mentioned James Comey.
I had to reshoot. I had the Bill Nye Afterburner on tape shot, ready to go, and about 7-8 hours before I had finished, I realized there are 2 enormous holes in this argument.
Oh no!
And I just had to rewrite it and reshoot it, so it's reshot. I'm going to be working on that today. Hope to have it by tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait to see the finished product.
That's neat. I mean, unlike in our former lives, we would have been producing the Encyclopedia Britannica, and then once that goes to print and that guy sat in your living room for 3 hours to sell it to you, there's nothing you can do about the information. It can't be altered. But we can, and frankly, just in being able to respond to members, like we just did today, and say, hey, we hear your complaint. We're going.
There's nothing we can do.
That's right. There's not a darn thing we're going to do about it, but we want you to know that we care. No, I'm with Bill, man. I would love to be doing this show. I've said before, not only I would love to be doing this show daily, I would love to be doing this show with Bill and Steve and I in the same studio.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the
That'd be
dream
fun.
right there. Which means you all have to
Someday.
move to Colorado. Otherwise, forget it.
Yeah, Texas is right. That's right.
Actually, if I had to pick, I think that'd be the place to go. It's not filthy hot, and it's not filled with dumb as hammers.
Which place are you talking about now?
Colorado.
Colorado is not filled with dumb as hammers sophists.
Not to the degree that where I am is.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't throw a hammer without hitting somebody dumber than a rock around here. I have tried, believe me.
That's right.
They finally
there'll be-
ran out of hammers.
When we do our recording, let me just say to the national media and to the White House, no breaking stories between now and, let's say, Thursday, so that we can shoot this week's episodes and not feel bad that we didn't get that fast breaking news. For Bill
I
Whittle,
think nuclear
go ahead.
war and asteroid strike, I think something like that might be an exception. But other than
We
that,
might break into our regularly scheduled
just
work.
to say goodbye,
Yeah. I'm going to do it live from the computer sales floor.
Oh, there you go. That'll work.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much once again for your support of Right Angle and BillWhittle.com. We appreciate how you've told your friends about it. We thank you, especially all those folks who were with us for the first year that just came to a conclusion,
yes,
and is moving on now. We're celebrating our commencement of year 2 here. Thank you for re-upping there. Please tell your friends who haven't done so yet to do so, and also invite new ones in so we can get to that point where our vision comes to fruition. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the rest of the Right Angle team at BillWhittle.com, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for joining us.